questions all the time when we're around the country, and people say, man, are you ever going to run out of weeds to talk about during the Weed of the Week?
I don't think so.
So this week we thought, there's all kinds of fleabane out there. Let's talk about one of those. And in particular, this week we're going to talk about rough fleabane.
Well, rough fleabane is an annual weed. We don't usually see it in our part of the country a whole lot, but there is some of it out there. If you're trying to control it in crops like corn, the difficult thing is there's nothing labeled to control it. So what do you do when you find a weed and you go looking for information and you can look at every chemical label there is? I don't find rough fleabane anywhere. What are you supposed to do?
Well, it's not that nobody's labeled for it, because 2,4-D does a nice job controlling it in pastures and non-crop
I'm not going to
acres.
use that in my corn.
Well, pretty soon you will when there's 2,4-D tolerant corn and
Okay,
beans, but that's
we
a
got a few
different
years
story.
yet,
That's a
yeah.
different story. The other things that are labeled, Roundup does a nice job on rough fleabane, especially in Roundup Ready corn or soybeans, or in areas where you can use a non-selective herbicide and kill everything. That works fantastic. And the other product that's a really good helper, especially in front of soybeans, is Sencor. And Sencor actually doesn't do too bad a job. What I like to see is Sencor mixed in with the burn down ahead of Roundup Ready beans. Just a low rate of Sencor, anything from 1/12 of a pound up to 1/3 of a pound, depending on your soil pH and soil type. Does a nice job holding rough fleabane out of the field for good.
All right, let's come back to corn. Nothing's labeled. What would you do? And
well,
in my book, I would probably go Status.
Yeah, I would definitely use something that has dicamba in it. Status does a pretty nice job on rough fleabane, although I have to admit I've never seen a field fully loaded with rough fleabane, so I've just seen a few here and there, no big deal. Well, low pressure situation, Status worked just fine.
Well, this particular weed has both a fibrous and taproot system. It's an annual weed, but it can sometimes be a biennial. There are many different kinds of fleabane, but our Weed of the Week today is rough fleabane.
That's all the time we have for the Weed of the Week, but there's more Ag PhD to come right after this.